It is week 14 of the NHL season. We got fan bases booing players for their performance and for coming back in a different uniform. We got a tilt for the heavyweight championship that ends in a KO. We got fans throwing jerseys on the ice. A teenager somehow looks like the best player in the world on some nights. And other nights, we got goalies flat out disappearing from the game. The NHL season has become a dramatic mess, and it has been awesome to watch. So let's cover it all and dive into what really happened in Week 14 of the NHL season. Let's start the week with the Bleu Blanc et Rouge, the Cardiac Kids versus Dallas. Here's a quick tip on how to not defend Lane Hudson. Just let him walk down Main Street all alone. Buddy has enough time to pitch a tent, start a family, and grow old. He calls game. The Habs are the best O team in the league. They're 9-1 in 3-on-3 overtime. Checks out with all that young talent. Now, usually it's the Penguins blowing leads, but they appear to be a new team in 2026. Down 4-1 to Columbus. They score 3 unanswered, including one with 12 seconds left to tie the game. And when that happens, you know who didn't come this far to come this far. It's Sid, the middle-aged man, off the bench in OT, legs fresh as a daisy. He steps right in, tells Greaves to close his damn legs and go home. Penguins have now won 5 straight all of a sudden. Please get Sid back in the dance here. Meanwhile, the bad news keeps on coming for Olympic players too, as Gabriel Landeskog crashes into the post hard, and Jared Bednar said he'd be out for at least a while, which is just brutal. After all that time off that he took from injury, to come back the way he did was incredible, but this is just a brutal beat. On top of that, the defending champs showed that the Avs do in fact bleed. They hand them just their 3rd regulation loss of the season. To be the best, you gotta beat the best. The Panthers show who's boss tonight. Over in New Jersey, things are getting ugly, especially for Luke Hughes. First, he puts one in his own net. There you go, he owes 1 beer for the tendy. Then he basically does it again later in the game off a bad turnover, which essentially means he now owes the tendy a full-on 6-pack. Fans were all over him this game. Apparently, they were booing him every time he touched the puck, which is never a good feeling. Things are getting ugly in New Jersey, and Hughes is right in the middle of it right now as they lose 3-1 to Carolina. Finally, we had Vegas and Chicago. I don't know if a team can be first in their division and be Fugazis, but Vegas may just be that. 4-game losing streak coming into this one against the Bedardless Blackhawks, but out steps Tyler Bertuzzi with one hell of a legacy game. Hat-trick night for him in the 3-2 game. Gets the OT winner. I really hope the Blackhawks find a way to stay in the mix here for when Bedard returns, as I would love nothing more for the Sharks and Blackhawks, Celebrini and Bedard competing for a playoff spot. That would satisfy the scriptwriters. Hawks win to hand Vegas their 5th loss in a row. Now on to Monday, Red Wings versus Sens. Ottawa's in trouble here. Allmark is still out due to personal reasons, and they got a lot of ground to make up in the basement of the Atlantic, but Detroit is feeling it. They chase Miralainen out of the crease with 3 goals on 8 shots. That is sieve-worthy material right there. On the other hand, John Gibson stopping everything he sees. 35 saves for him. Detroit wins 5-3, and the hole gets bigger to climb for the Senators. Then we get some terrible news for Rangers fans. Igor Shesterkin leaves the game against the Mammoth with an injury. Looks like he tweaked his knee here. That's no bueno. He's been the Rangers MVP this season. So in comes Jonathan Quick, and he's not having any of it. He gets run into. They crash the crease, so the wires cross for him. He starts a scrum. Just another day at the office. Worst part for New York is that the Mammoth end up taking an OT to add a little salt in the wound. Then we got a random legacy game from Justin Sordiff. Guy has 5 goals and 13 points coming into this one, and he explodes for a hat trick and 5 points on the night. Ovi found out the boys were scoring goals, so he says, I want a piece. He gets 2 himself on the night. Caps beat the Ducks 7-4, who've come crashing down to earth after a hot start to the season. That's 6 losses in a row for them now. They drop out of the top 3 in the Pacific. The youth is certainly playing a factor there. But the other reason is because the Kraken won't stop winning. How hilarious. They go into Calgary and snag a huge 2 points as Philip Grubauer was pretty much unbeatable, eating pucks, 41 saves, 5-1 win for Seattle. They haven't lost since I bagged them for always being in the mushy middle, so you're welcome. Finally, the Kings and Wild Rochambeau for the 2nd straight game. Andrei Kuzmenko, watch this, drives the house like the Russian tank he is, takes it to the paint and buries. You got Darcy Kemper stepping up, making 35 saves, a little Olympic roster boost for him. The Kings win, and there's an absolute logjam in the Pacific with only 1 point separating the top team and 5th place. But to show you how nuts the East is, not one team in the Pacific could even be in a wild card spot in the East. This season continues to just make 0 sense. Now, before Tuesday's games, we got to shout out our friends at SeatGeek. 2026 is here. The World Cup is on. Do my fellow Cougis in Italy finally qualify this year? Who the hell knows? They've choked harder than the Leafs the last few tournaments, but the great news is you can see it all live this year by getting tickets on SeatGeek, the #1 rated ticketing app with over 28 million downloads. There's more than 70,000 listed events from sports, concerts, to festivals, and more. The way it works is simple. You browse the seating on a scale of 1 to 10, look for the green, which indicates the best deals, and voila, you got yourself a good pair of tickets. A great way to use it is before a game on your phone with the app. You can snag some unreal deals. That's what I do for Leaf games and other live events, and you can do the same by using code HOCKEY2026 to get 10% off your next pair of tickets. Just hit the link in the description to download the app, and it'll automatically apply the code to your account so you're ready the next time you find a deal. So get the app, get a great deal. It's 100% worth it. Once again, big shout out to our pals at SeatGeek for sponsoring these weekly recaps. Now let's get into Tuesday's games. Now, Tuesday, we get rocking with the two best teams in the league right now. Avs versus Lightning. You know who's an absolute gamer? Brandon Hagel. How do you like your Hagel? Buttered and toasted with a crisp one-timer on the side. That's his 20th of the year. The Lightning win 4-2, and they're 8th in a row. And I can't believe what I'm seeing here. The Avalanche have only had 2 regulation losses in their first 40 games. Now, they lose their second regulation game in a row, both to Florida teams, by the way. It is funny how she goes sometimes in this game. Then we got Vancouver and Buffalo. In case you were worried if the Sabres would come back down to earth after their winning streak got snapped, nope. They're still a wagon, apparently. Don't worry about it. Now, the Noivs did come out a little bit after they almost blew a 4-0 lead with 10 minutes left, but the Sabres surprisingly hold on. Canucks fans can take a sigh of relief as the tank job is going swimmingly. Then, the revenge juices start to flow. The Ducks are visiting the Flyers. One thing's for sure. Philly fans never forget a damn thing, and they're not too fond of Cutter Gauthier, who refused to play for the Flyers after being drafted, and ever since, he's been public enemy #1. Every time he touches the puck, they boo him, so what does he go and do? He buries one, and the boos rain down. Yeah, how do you like that? But here's the thing. Trevor Zegras, a former Duck himself, is also looking for a taste of revenge. So he goes, all right there, Slick. Watch this. He gets 2 of his own against his former team and hands them a nice L in the process. That is now 7 losses in a row for the Ducks. Crazy how they're fumbling their way out of a playoff spot in one of the weakest divisions we've ever seen. The script writers were cooking in this next one, too, between the Stars and Hurricanes. The Rantanen Bowl. Yeah, remember when he was a Hurricane for 15 seconds and then he got traded for Logan Stankoven? Well, watch this. Stankoven, the Dragon Ellie around Rantanen, says see you later and then buries. How about that? That pissed off the Moose, though. He was getting booed all night, so he takes a page out of Gautier's book and scores to shut him up. But the Carolina Hurricanes get the last laugh to win 6-3. Dallas has now dropped 6 in a row also. It's crazy to think what's going on in the league right now, but you think that's bizarre. Wait till you see the shit that's going on in New Jersey. We jump into this game 5-0 already for the Islanders, and a Devils fan throws a jersey on the ice. It's a Subban jersey to boot. Things are ugly for the Devils right now, and this one is really going to stir the pot. They get pumped 9-0. That literally warrants them getting bag skated like Team USA, a miracle. Get on the line and don't stop till you puke type of thing. The biggest story in this one, though, is Sheldon Keefe leaving Jacob Markstrom in net for all 9 goals. That is sewering your goalie to a whole other level. His minus 7.57 goal save above expected is the worst in a single game since the stat has been tracked in 2007. That could be the very thing that makes him lose the dressing room entirely. I just can't believe how quickly things turned upside down for the Devils. Now, on a brighter note, Brad Marchand is back to trolling Leaf fans. He said before the game that it was between Florida and Toronto in free agency for where he would sign. The guy just loves to play mind games against Toronto. He knows the media will play right into it, and he always does it. But the Leafs come out and put on another solid performance. They win 4-1 and pick up another 2 points in the Eastern Conference, which continues to be an absolute circus right now. Then we go to the Golden Knights versus Jets, and we see a brutal injury here as Colasar shoves Hayden Fleury into the boards. He goes in awkwardly on his neck. That required a stretcher to take him off the ice. He was deemed okay afterwards, but it was still a scary incident. And even though things are a shitstorm right now in Winnipeg, at least they're still sticking up for their teammates. It's the code. Captain Adam Laurie steps up and drops the mitts with Kolasar. Good on both guys there for answering the bell. But the nightmare season continues for Winnipeg. They lose in OT and drop their 10th straight. It is baffling what's going on there. Next up is the Diddy Bowl. Yes, the Predators versus the Oilers. Connor McDavid is sickening, by the way. Watch him just slice through everyone and score like he's playing on easy mode. Potential SeatGeek goal of the week right there. He's on his version of a slump, by the way, which is only 5 points in 4 games, but it was only a matter of time before we saw him take over. He scored a hattie in this one. He takes over the lead league in scoring again as the Oilers win the Diddy Bowl 6-2. On to San Jose, where we get a heavyweight tilt between Olivier and Reeves. The boys were just chucking bombs at each other, and eventually Olivier buckles Reeves. That's a knockout blow, and now he holds the heavyweight title. Now, I'm not sure what it is with the Sharks and AHL call-ups, but Pavel Regenta is on fire right now. He's got 6 goals in 4 games. Celebrini pots the empty netter to extend his point streak to 11 games as the Sharks defeat the Jackets 5-2. Finally, the Seattle Kraken just can't stop winning. Jared McCann gets a buzzer beater with less than a second left. He activates slappers only from GoldenEye on the N64, and suddenly a team that was notoriously mid is a scoring machine. They win 7-4 and are 8-0-1 in their last 9 games. Who knows, maybe they actually find a way to win the division. Let's move on to Wednesday, where Dallas comes into Washington on a 6-game losing streak. Nothing can get the fellas going, though, out of a funk, quite like a scrap Labushkin. Drops him with Duhaime. Looks like it does something as the Stars look like a way better version of themselves on this night. They win 4-1 with Ovi getting the only goal for the Caps, by the way. Washington's playing around with a wild card spot, but they're not quite the juggernaut that they were last year. Meanwhile, the Habs did the same to Calgary, too. Lane Hudson with the Donkey Kong slapper. He's been red hot as of late. Just another Olympic snub. No big deal. Alexander Texier had himself a night, too. 3 points in this one, while Jacob Fowler stops 28 of 29. The Habs are firing at all cylinders right now. Let's go to the Blues and Blackhawks, where St. Louis is getting pumped again. So Jim Montgomery goes to pull Jordan Binnington, but he can't find his backup, Joel Hofer. Where the hell is he? Cameraman pulls off some Scorsese camera work here. He zooms in, and Hofer's mask is just peeking around the corner as if to say, I ain't going out there and going into that mess. He's right, too, because the Bedardless Blackhawks put up 7 on them, and the controversy around Jordan Binnington being named to Team Canada continues. He's having one of the worst seasons of any goalie, and he's still found a way on to Team Canada. Elsewhere, the Sens keep losing. Utah beats them 3-1 to stay in their wildcard hunt, but Ottawa just continues to dig themselves a deeper hole with every loss. That's going to be incredibly hard to get out of in the East. The West, though, is a different story, and one that is being taken over by the Celebrini show yet again. Watch this. The Sharks pull the tendy, and Celebrini goes to work. Solo effort, dances around a few kings, and then puts it 5-hole to tie the game late. Still a teenager, by the way, and he wasn't done there. In OT, he creates a turnover, comes down in a 2-on-1, shows shot like the dirty salesman he is, and then slides it over to William Eklund for the game winner. This kid is generational. 3-point night, 12-game point streak for Celebrini, future Olympian, and carrying the goddamn Sharks to the playoffs while doing it. The future truly is teal with Celebrini at the helm. Now on to Thursday, where we get some magic from Showtime. Patrick Kane, goal number 499, and then 500, maybe the easiest of his career. Empty netter, the bench is clear. The vibes in Detroit are extremely high. They win 5-1 and continue to be one of the best teams in the East. But there's also another powerhouse in the Atlantic, and that's the Bleu Blanc et Rouge. They don't care that they're going up against the defending Cup champs. They are hot as a pistol right now, youngest team in the league, and they spanked the Panthers 6-2 and are now first in the Atlantic. Florida's in tight here. Kachuk's coming back, and everything will likely be fine, but the East is so bonkers that every point matters right now, even though we're in the middle of January. Meanwhile, the Calgary Flames continue to seem like they got no clue what direction they want to go in. Are they retooling? Are they a bubble team? Pick a damn route or have it picked for you as they lose their 4th in a row to Boston. Now, I know this might seem difficult to get used to, but the Sabres are still a wagon. This team has found a way to come together ever
ever since firing Kevin Adams, and it's remarkable. Colton Ellis, 30 of 32 stops. Guys like Zucker and McLeod are stepping up at the right moments. The Sabres win yet again, making that their 12th win in their last 13 games. The East is so crazy right now, that's good enough to land you just in the last wildcard spot in the Atlantic. Chasing them are the Leafs, and we go to Philly. Low-scoring affair here, but a wild OT. John Tavares, the man who left the island, cell shot, goes between the legs cheeky to Easton Cowan, the cowboy they call him, saddle-up partner. Leafs win and find themselves just 1 point back of a playoff spot. Now, quick warning here as things get ugly for some teams. First, it is the Devils. So a couple games ago, we had Luke Hughes playing as a double agent against his own team. Fans were booing him. Then we had one of the worst goaltending performances of all time in a 9-0 drubbing. So what is New Jersey's response tonight against the Penguins? Well, how about only scoring 1 goal and 29 shots against Stuart Skinner for a 4-1 loss? The Devils have fallen off a cliff since the beginning of the season, and so have the Anaheim Ducks. It's a damn shame because these young Bucks were a bunch of absolute gunslinging slick ricks at the beginning of the year, but teams are adjusting. Carolina only allows them to generate 13 shots on goal. Ducks lose their 8th in a row, but what's crazy is their losing streak isn't even the longest in the league right now. That title belongs to the Jets. It is baffling how ass they've become this season. They lose their 11th in the row after being up 3-1 on the Oilers near the end of the second, just to blow yet another lead. Playoffs are completely out of the question at this point, and it just seems puzzling how a team that finished first in the league a season ago could be this bad. At least they still got a great chance of winning the lottery. Welcome, Gavin McKenna.
Now, here's proof not to piss off the Avs. They lost a couple games in Florida, but they come back and lay an absolute shit pumping on the Ottawa Senators.
First, it's Manson absolutely chucking bombs at Clevin, and then later, Tim Stützle wants to go with Sam Girard. That's a mistake, eh? What a cookie night for Colorado. 8-2 win. 5 different Avs had at least 3 points in this game. Sens may be an even bigger disaster in the East right now than the Devils. They have lost 3 straight and are firmly in the basement. The Kraken finally lose. The Preds are somehow back in the playoff race, and in Vegas, they cannot escape the misery of goaltending injuries. Carter Hart now joins the pile, falls back on his knee, which means they go back to their 3rd and 4th string for Vegas. They somehow find a way to overcome a 2-0 deficit and win 5-3, but it is trouble in the crease there, at least to end Thursday night.
Then we move on to Friday, where we got some good news. Connor Bedard back in the lineup, but it turns out it doesn't even matter. Turns out half the team ate some bad chicken and were out with a stomach bug in this one, so some players were out and they had to rely on Drew Camiso to be in the net. All this does is allow Ovi to extend his record to 187 unique goalies that he's scored on, and he also has goals in 3 straight games. Now Caps win 5-1 and are now back to being in the first wildcard spot. Then, finally, the Winnipeg Jets win a game. Can you believe it? They do so in dominant fashion, too, up 5-1 after 2 periods and finally learn how to hold on to a damn lead. They defeat the Kings with authority to snap their 11-game losing streak. Sorry, but I think the tank job is still on, even though they won this one. Then we finish Friday with St. Louis in Utah. The last time these two teams met, Torpachenko basically took out Logan Cooley's knee. So this is the code in hockey. You got to answer the bell if you go after a star player. Jack McBain drops the gloves at Torpachenko. He starts ragdolling him around. That's a message right there. Don't touch our superstar. The Mammoth would win this one 4-2, and because the Kings lost, they're now in the second wild card spot. But to add insult to injury for the Blues, Robert Thomas landed face first on the ice and needed help getting off. They can't really afford to lose him. That is a big hit. It has been a weird season for St. Louis, and this is just another bad beat. All right, now on to Saturday. Let's start with a crazy one. First, the Bruins are up 2-1 after 1 period. They're heading into the dressing room. But hold the phone here for a second. They have to come back onto the ice because it turns out a goal was scored 30 seconds earlier. That's a weird one, but not weirder than Hustaninov. I call him Houdini, scoring 4 goals in this game. Pasternak had 6 assists. Holy cookie night. Everyone's just hitting all the bonuses with a game like this. The Bruins lay one of the biggest beatdowns of the season on the Rangers with a 10-2 win. Now on to Pittsburgh versus Calgary. This is a summary of the Flame season right here. Penguins score on the 2-on-1, and Malkin bulldozes Zari like it's his little cousin at a birthday party. That's the game winner. Penguins stay hot. It should also be no surprise that the Avs are so good that McKinnon, Makar, and Natchez could all have 0 points, while none of their starters were active in this one, and they still found a way to win the game. This team seems like a walk-in cheat code almost every single night. Someone piss test these guys. Now onto the Sharks and Stars, where the Magic keeps on going in San Jose. The Sharks are down 4-2 with 10 minutes left. They come back to tie it and force OT. And watch this, Toffoli, cannon. That's the game. Look at this all-time stick smash here from the goalie. Bam, that is fantastic. The Sharks drink your tears for breakfast. Celebrini, back-to-back three-point games. The kids are on fire. Another superstar lighting it up is Nikita Kucherov. Guy's doing what he always does. Casual 4-point night in his rocking chair with a schmoke and a pancake. 7-2 slapping of the Flyers. Tampa's a wagon. They've won 9 in a row now. And the Atlantic is such a damn mess that ain't even good enough for the division lead. The Habs and Red Wings face off, and this is how you know it ain't your night. Go out to play the puck, and whoop, there it goes right to the other team. Thanks for the tap in. That's the kind of night it was for Montreal. They get shut out 4-0. People have been very hesitant about believing in the Detroit Red Wings, and I don't blame them. I'm one of them myself. However, they keep proving that they're the real deal game after game. Let's see now in the next 10 to 15 games if they can hold court. Staying in the Atlantic, we got the Panthers versus the Senators, and another classic Florida moment right here. Carter Verhaeghe steamrolls Artem Zub into the boards from behind. The Sens respond right away. That's going to draw a crowd, and rightfully so, but Ottawa's season has completely fallen apart here. There were some nasty rumors that went around on Twitter that the team had to come out and address to say that were false. Captain Brady Tkachuk flat out called it bullshit. Either way, the results have them in the bottom of the East, and right now they're showing no signs of turning it around. On the other hand, the Leafs are a completely different story. Ever since firing assistant coach Mark Savard, this team looks like a whole new animal. They spanked the Canucks 5-0. I mean, who cares that they're last in the league, right? Nylander's back in the lineup scoring goals. Domi's out here fighting guys. The parade has never sounded so on in Toronto. Swinging over to Carolina, how about this for a potential SeatGeek goal of the week? Matty Beniers puts Jacob Slavin in a blender. Don't go watching that puck, Sonny boy. He reminds him to look at the body. He buries after a nice move, but Carolina, they don't give up much. Again, they have another performance where they only allow 12 shots on goal as they win 3-2. I also can't believe we live in a reality now where the Sabres are a winning team. They beat the Ducks, who have now lost 9 in a row. This team is unrecognizable from the beginning of the year, where they were high flying, pulling off flying Vs. One of the few teams in the league right now who are in the slumps. Then in Nashville, Connor Bedard is running wild. It only took him a game, but he's already back to feeding Tyler Bertuzzi on the doorstep. No one owes more beers to a teammate than Bertuzzi to Bedard. This guy's the king of the tap-ins. They don't ask how, they ask how many. The Blackhawks shut out the Preds 3-0 to stay 2 points back of a wild card spot. Over in Minnesota, it's just another day at the office for Quinn Hughes. 3 assists factored in on 100% of the Wild scoring tonight. Sick puppy, but the Islanders still find a way. Holmstrom activated the Pistons. Full head of steam, drives the net for the OT winner as New York wins that one. Vegas also stays on top of the worst division in hockey with a 4-2 win over St. Louis. And behind both of them are the Kings and Oilers. Leon Draisaitl, 2 goals in this one. That's 1,000 points in his career. And McDavid follows that up with a goal himself. He's on an 18-game point streak. That's the longest in his career. This guy has never been hotter, but this ain't a playoff series, so the Kings are actually allowed to win this one. It is the underrated superstar himself, Adrian Kempe, calling game for LA to win this one and end a wild week of hockey. So, what did you think of Week 14 of the NHL season? Who surprised you? Who pissed you off? Let us know in the comments down below. If you want to check out some of our breakdowns from this past week, you can click on any of the videos right here. And if you want to see recaps just like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a single thing.